Hello and welcome to another episode of Learning to Play Through Play. I'm Amoni Pinala, and today we're going to be talking about industry career missions. We're talking about the first half of industry career missions. These are split into two uh, two separate career missions, or two series of career missions. There are two different industry career missions, and we're going to talk about the first half of them today. And I'm just going to say up at the top that there's not actually a ton that has to do with industry in this first half, but we'll get into it. So the first thing that we get a sampling of in this is salvaging. The first couple missions are all about salvaging. And why are they showing this? Well, because salvaging is a good way to earn money as a new player if you're clever and careful. So, salvaging NPC wrecks, right? You've been shooting a bunch of rats, you're running missions, you're going into belts, and you're just shooting the little red bad guys that are showing up. Okay, that's fine, but the wrecks that they leave behind, you can salvage. And the NPCs don't give you a lot of good salvage. Once you train up your skills, you might get a bit more from it because you will be able to do it quickly. And so you'll be able to get a lot more salvage in a short amount of time. But when you start out as a new player, it's not going to give you a bunch of money. But if you travel to low-sec and null-sec, where fights have happened recently, you can get more valuable salvage because you're salvaging player wrecks. Salvaging has one basic skill that you can train up. Alphas can only train this to 3. Now there is a special ship for salvaging called a Noctis, but for our purposes as new players, this is way too expensive and it requires a lot of training to use, and it's not even available to alphas. So we're not even going to worry about that right now. The important thing is that most players, when it comes to salvaging, they just use a destroyer. Any old destroyer. So in my case, that's going to be something like my Thrasher here. I could also use a Talwar because it's also a Minotaur ship. The Salvager works like many modules in this game. You lock on to the wreck of the ship, you turn on your Salvager module, wait for it to cycle. Every time it cycles, you have a percentage chance of getting the salvage on that cycle. Now, training the salvage skill increases your chance of getting the salvage on that cycle. It does not improve the quality of your salvage, and it does not remove the chance that you might salvage something or try to salvage something and get nothing. Most of what you're going to see in the industry career agent missions for the first half of your industry career agent missions is going to be about distribution. Distribution missions are actually more about carrying cargo from one place to another. So this is like basically you're getting paid to be a space trucker for the corporations of New Eden. Now, in the industry career agent missions, the first half, we do get a glimpse at mining and refining. Mining and refining is not considered part of industry. I know that sounds weird because you need what you get from mining to do industry, but mining and refining itself is not considered industry by most Eve players. Mining is basically the same as shooting rats like we did in the Enforcer missions and the Soldier of Fortune missions. But this time you're going to be using a mining laser and you're going to point that laser at rocks. As you can see, I'm using a Venture for that. The Venture gets bonuses for mining, and although it is very flimsy, it will get blown up very easily if you're not careful because it has no tank. It is still the best mining ship for new players. Refining is taking your raw ore that you mined out in space, bringing it back to a station or a structure, and dragging that raw ore, putting it into a little box with a recycling icon, and reprocessing your ore into minerals. New players are going to get really bad yields on reprocessing raw ore. So the amount of minerals that you're going to get from reprocessing your raw ore is going to be significantly low. New players, you're also going to be paying a lot of fees to be able to do this because you're using NPC stations, most likely. Unless you're already in a player-owned corp and you're using your corporation structures, you're probably going to be paying uh, high fees to be able to do this. Now, as a new player, you're in the career agent mission, home systems. It's fine. Don't worry about it too much. Don't worry about those prices. It's fine. It's fine. But be aware that once you move on from the career agent missions, these prices are going to matter because if you are not careful, you will spend all your money paying for fees and taxes and all that. So, players who want to refine at a high yield, right, getting the most minerals out of your raw ore, will need to train a lot of skills to do so. This is why many corps and alliances have people who do refining for others. There are people in corps and alliances who have trained all the skills needed to refine your ores and get the best yield of minerals out of that raw ore. Let's also talk about manufacturing because the last mission or two here in our career agent missions for the first half of the industry missions gives us a glimpse at manufacturing. Now, manufacturing is industry. So this is like this is the where industry really comes in, right? And manufacturing is just as easy as it looks on the screen. The career agent mission gave me a blueprint, and then I took my minerals that I refined from the ore that I mined, and I used them to build a small turret. Now, a couple things here. Manufacturing does get more complicated as you build bigger and higher quality items. The amount of minerals that you need is going to be higher, and you're probably going to need other things to build what you want to build. This small turret that I'm building is very simple, and you'll notice that I had titanium, but I didn't have any pyrite, so I just bought some pyrite off the market, and that's fine, but it's important that we note that even here, right, I still didn't have all the minerals I needed. If I had wanted to do this without just buying pyrite off the market, I would have had to go back out, find the right kind of rocks to mine. We have this blueprint, and it's actually something called a blueprint copy, which are limited run schematics we use to build things. This blueprint has 5 copies on it, so we can build 5 guns with it if we wanted to. We're going to talk more about blueprints in another episode because we are going to be building more stuff as we go along, but I wanted to sort of lay out what it is you're seeing here. We are paying a steep price to build this gun, which is kind of unfortunate. It costs money to build things, and the price is determined in part by the taxes that the corporation has. We're in an NPC station, so the taxes are determined by NPC taxes. The only reason we don't care about this is because we're still in the new player experience. The prices are still pretty low. If we were building something bigger, like say a battleship, this would be pretty expensive to do, and we wouldn't want to do it here in this station. We'd want to do it somewhere else. Once you hit run to start a build, there's a timer that starts counting down. You have to wait for the thing you're building to finish. There are skills to make almost every aspect of manufacturing cheaper, faster, and easier. it will take time to train all of them. So if manufacturing is something that sounds exciting, if you're the kind of person that likes to build things in games, you will want to train the skills related to manufacturing. Now, before I sign off, I do want to flag a couple of things here. I hadn't really planned on this, but I did end up getting an invite from a corporation. I was invited to join this corporation, and so I want to talk about scam corporations. If you get an invite from a random corporation, it is almost always a trap or a scam. The corp I got an invite to promises to help me become a better player. The corp, if I look at the details, is brand new. It's like 14 days old. The CEO is brand new to the game, and there are only 14 members in the corp. This corp is likely run by somebody's alt to scam new players. Now, how is this a scam, right? They're offering to help me become a better player and all that good stuff. Well, the thing is that these scam corps, right? They at best, right? So, least harmful version of this would be that I join and there's nothing to do. Like there's no corporation chat, nobody does anything. It's just dead. And that's really boring and disappointing and not what I want from a corp. Okay, that's the least harmful version of this. But more often than not, what happens with Scam Corps is you'll join and they ask you to put in a ton of work that really only benefits the CEO and maybe the directors of the corp. So it could be like, oh, you like mining? Let's all mine these asteroids and everybody sell their ore to the corp, and you're going to get only 40% of the value of these ores, right? But it's for the corp, so they lean on, doing things for the corp. And eventually you spend so much time doing things for the corp that you're not making any money, you're not really having very much fun, because it's always for the corp and never so that you can get something cool and fun out of this game. And then these corps will threaten you with kicking you out if you don't do what they want you to do. As a general rule, you should only join a corp after talking to a representative of the corp. Most corps have a person or have people designated for this task, and they're called recruiters. Be extremely suspicious and cautious of corps that only have like 10, 20 members. Corps with a very small number of members, there's a chance that all of them could just be alts of the CEO. And it's important to recognize that scams are not a violation of the TOS or the end user's license agreement. This game is very much a big open sandbox in that way. Scamming is a time-honored tradition in EVE Online. If you get scammed, that is generally considered a lesson learned the hard way. Now, we will talk about a lot more scams. We'll talk more about scams when we get to a trade hub later. A healthy dose of skepticism is always, always, always a good idea. Always look at something that sounds too good to be true and assume that there is some hidden trick to it. A random person that you don't know, who's not in your corp, who's not your friend, if they offer to do something kind for you, be suspicious of it. It's not always a scam, it's not always a trick, but just be suspicious. Healthy doses of suspicion while playing EVE Online are good and healthy for staying alive and keeping your stuff. That's all I have for you. If you have questions, please feel free to leave them as a comment. I know this video is a little late. I'm still trying to figure out the workflow for these new videos. The process for making these videos is different than the way that I made class videos. There's more editing. The class notes need to be written up and things like that. So these take a little more time, and figuring out the right flow to get these videos out in a week's time is a little bit of an effort. So I apologize that this one came out late, but we're working on it. We'll get there. I also want to give a special shout out to Solitarium, who I know from my Eve University days and helped do a little editing on the episode 1 class notes. So thank you very much for the help. If you like this video, be sure to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. I'll see you next time. Fly dangerously, folks.